And welcome to podcast numero dos. For myself, Mark Elfman, and my man, Roy White, this is Extra Crispy Podcast with Elf, that would be me, and Roy, that would be that guy over there. Brought to you by the greatness of who? Tell him who, tell him who, tell him who.
That is our good friends at Opulence Media Group. And of course, if you want to check us out on social media platforms, I'm at RW3 on Twitter. Elf, of course, at I am Elf. And of course, if you want to follow the podcast, at Extra Crispy Pod. And of course, you can follow our friends at Opulence Media G as well if you want to check out what they're doing. Also, make sure you go ahead and subscribe, right? If you're a fan of the podcast,
Yes.
if you like what Elf and I bring to the table, if the first episode got you in the door, right? And we hella appreciate that. Well, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, tell a friend, and we'll get you every episode going forward every Friday right here with the Extra Crispy Pod.
I've actually changed my dog's name to subscribe for the last week, just because it's very important. So just when you hear me just say, hey, yo, subscribe, it means not only you guys out there, all y'all, we thank you, we appreciate you. But as my man Roy White just said, we're going to have fun doing this every single week, and we're going to bring it to you every single week. We're going to have fun every single week.
But you got the chalice, Elf. You got the chalice for cheers.
Let me get my glass. You know I got it close by. Cheers, l'chaim. Don't let your meatloaf, all those good things, all right? But we just want you to subscribe, because the more you subscribe, the more fun we're going to have. And the more we're going to get to invite you to do more things with us. And believe me, we have things planned. This guy over here, Roy White, and I, do we have things planned?
This guy.
Do we have things planned?
This guy? Are you freaking kidding me, this guy? The shit he's got going on in his head that he wants to do, it's going to blow your minds. But first, hit that subscribe button, and we will take you there, I promise. But, Elf, I guess the first thing we got to get to, right, is, of course, what happened this past weekend, right? We had a championship weekend that one of those weekends, as you would say, what's the saying?
It's extra.
Sign in the yard,
it's
stay the hell away.
Crispy, but the sign was in the yard, and I think people started listening finally. Because we had a pretty good matchup on both sides, NFC, AFC, and I'll say they did not disappoint. Both games were really, really good. The first one that, you and I both not only kept our eyes on, our ears on, and watched and dissected and digested and kind of went, am I really seeing what I'm seeing? Was Mr. Brady, Mr. 43-year-old Mr. Brady, Mr. Young Man, Mr. Brady, and Mr. Aaron Rodgers. And let's just say they didn't disappoint in terms of giving us some drama, because as you and I talk about, I love me some football. Look, I don't necessarily have a dog in this fight in any of these four teams. I'm a Cowboy fan. I've always been a Cowboy fan. But when I have a game like this, when we have championship action like this, I always say, look, just give me drama. Give me something where it keeps me on the edge of my seat. And they didn't disappoint.
Yeah, I'll say it what it is, Elf. I was hate watching this bitch, okay? I didn't want to see Aaron Rodgers win after what he did to the Cowboys, and I certainly didn't want to see Tom Brady win because, damn it, I've seen enough of Tom Brady in Super Bowls. But I will admit, after what we saw, thoroughly impressed. Cheers to both of those gentlemen. I predicted incorrectly, right? I had the Packers going, and I thought, based on the idea that the best 30-year-old quarterback versus the world's best 20-year-old quarterback was a compelling matchup. Well, I certainly can't argue with the GOAT, undisputed, and I hate to say that because Tom Brady pisses me off to no end. From his butt chin, okay, the little dimple on his chin that's a straight-up butthole, okay, to his supermodel wife, to the fact that, he kisses his kids on the lips. And you know what? I shouldn't even judge that because I kiss my kids on the lips. I don't care. I'm going to judge him for it, and I'm going to do it myself because that's the way I feel about the man. And I'll be damned, Elf. What I ended up seeing, another GOAT-like performance. I got to give it to the man. The throw he made to Scotty Miller, and granted, the luck involved to him even be in that position is a case that he made.
How in the hell was he? I mean, I was like, you have to be kidding me. This is third grade peewee football. On a play like that, just don't let anybody get behind you, okay? Just keep everybody in front of you. You'll be fine. This is the National freaking Football League. The hell? You know what it was? I saw this the other day, and they talked about this. It was your brother who was the brother who was a defensive back was looking at a little white wide receiver, and he went, you know what? I ain't gonna worry about that little guy. And that little guy just went right by him. And I think look, everybody was shocked. Everybody was shocked that when he threw the football, he's like, oh, what? There's no. And then you saw Miller behind, was it King for the Packers?
Yep.
And you're like going, no. There's no way. And then he catches it, and and if you hate Brady, the hate that the animosity rose like about 9 million%. You're like, that lucky son of a bitch.
Yeah, you want to know the last quarterback, Elf? The last quarterback that advanced to the Super Bowl after throwing 3 picks in a championship game. Do you know who that was? That was Tom Brady.
Oh,
back in
geez.
2007. How lucky? Now, I get it. The compelling argument is there to be made. How lucky is this man, right? Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams drop a hookup on a back shoulder pass that they nail probably 99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
Okay? They wound up kicking a field goal, and the difference in the game was what? 5 points.
I tell you this.
So many stages, the luck pendulum could have swung against him, and yet it swung in his favor. And I'll be damned if the man didn't take advantage of it again.
Now, what that made it, 21-10 at halftime?
So
the touchdown, the Miller made it 21-10.
Bingo.
And then the Packers get the second half kickoff. So you're like, okay, they got to get something going. And they start to drive down the field. And on the third play, what's his name, pops the running back. And Devin White is like every freaking where. That guy's unbelievable. They pick up the fumble. They get in the end zone in 3 plays. And the next thing you know, Brady's got another touchdown. It's 28-10 with like 11 minutes left in the third quarter. I'm like going, they're going to blow them out. This is ridiculous. I can't believe what I'm watching. But fortunately, I think as football fans, Green Bay turned things around a little bit. They got the ball back and they drove down the field, and they made it 28-17. And then you're kind of like going, okay, maybe Rodgers and the Packers can get a little momentum. But Brady starts throwing the ball to the Packers and starts making interceptions, and all of a sudden the ball game changes a little bit.
And they got that momentum, Elf. That's the insane thing. They got the touchdown, right?
Yep.
To make it a 1-score game. To give themselves some momentum, right? 28-17. Right. And then Tom Brady throws an interception. They get another touchdown to make it 28-23. And at this point, everything's going in Green Bay's favor, right? You're thinking, okay, momentum has swung. After they score the touchdown, Tom Brady again throws an interception.
Yeah, it was a great blitz that the guy.
And this was Elf. This was the second of 3 straight possessions in which Tom Brady would throw an interception. But what did the Packers do with 2 of those 3 interceptions? They combined
6
on
points,
2 drives to produce 5 yards, 0 first downs, and they gave up 2 sacks to 1 individual in Shaq Barrett.
It was surprising because I think we all saw as Brady threw the 1 interception and the Packers made hay, and then Brady threw a second interception, and like, oh wow, Brady threw another interception. And then the third one where he gets blitzed, the ball goes flying up in the air, the guy makes the catch again, and you go, Green Bay's going to win this damn game and they're going to come back. But I said it once, I'll say it again. The Packers the Tampa Bay's defense started against Drew Brees and company, and they were hitting and knocking the snot out of people all over the field. And they were doing it against the Packers too. I mean, they were, even though Green Bay was making a little bit of a comeback, I mean, look, who was the defensive end? Barrett, Shaq Barrett?
Shaq Barrett.
Shaq Barrett with 2 sacks, and then Pierre Paul with 1 arm and a thumb, and he's making plays. And I'm telling you, their defense kept it interesting. And all that being said, with the game 31-26, Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers get the ball and they're driving down the field and they get it into the red zone. And you're thinking, come on, baby. Come on. This is it right here at Lambeau Field in the cold. This is going to be perfect. And it was incredible on the 3rd down. And I think I've watched this replay 55 times. He goes back to pass. The pressure comes. He starts to run up in the pocket.
What could he have gotten?
What
could he have gotten? Could he have gotten the touchdown?
Well,
I don't.
That's what I'm saying. I think we all, when we saw him start to scramble, we look at the top of the screen and you're going, oh my God, run it in. He's got this. And for whatever reason, he tried to force the pass in where Adams was completely covered and incomplete. So now it's 4th and 8. And you're figuring, okay, well, you got to go for this. I know they have 3 timeouts and it's 2 minutes and change. You got to go for this. And he trots out the field goal kicker. And I think the TV had a little glimpse of Aaron Rodgers was kind of like, really? And they kicked the field goal. And, a lot of people questioned that. Even the play-by-play guys were like, what the hell are they doing?
Did you question it in the moment?
I did. I did because I figured, look, even if you don't get it, you still have to stop them and get the ball back. But at least you have them deep in their territory. And, God forbid a ball pops up and fumbles, whatever. If you force them to punt, he's going to have to punt from deep in his own territory. And you might catch the ball at midfield. And look, Rodgers, how many times have we seen him throw a Hail Mary? He's the best at throwing a Hail Mary. He throws it high up in the air and says, guys, catch it. But they didn't even get a chance because guess what? You never got the ball back. You never got the ball back.
And I think that's right. That right there is what makes it a very simple argument. If you kick the field goal in that instance, you still have to get a stop.
That's right.
If you go for it on 4th down and miss, you still have to get a stop.
That's right.
And at that point, and that's why I think that 3rd down, as you mentioned, was so critical. If he had taken the yards that were available to him, even if it wasn't a touchdown, if that's 4th and 4 or 4th and 2,
right,
they are absolutely going for that touchdown. And that is why Tom Brady is such a lucky son of a bitch. That's all of it, okay? We just broke it all down between Shaq Barrett, right, between the defense absolutely blowing up the Packers at the absolute right time, right, between the coaching staff on the Packers side of the ball shitting the bed, okay, spitting the bit. All that plays into the fact that he is the GOAT of fortune.
And you know what? It's funny because I've heard this many, many times, and somebody says, man, he is a lucky son of a bitch, blah, 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 blah. And I said, let me tell you something about life and sports real quick. I said, good teams are lucky and lucky teams are good. Have you ever seen an 0-17 team lucky? No. You know why? It's because they suck. Okay. If you suck, you're not going to get lucky. But if good teams, great teams are lucky because lucky teams are good and good teams are lucky. It goes hand in hand. And look, they had 5 sacks against Rodgers. I think they only got to Brady once. They had 3 interceptions against Brady. Rodgers only 1 interception. They had the fumble, and I don't know if Tampa Bay fumbled the ball or not. But Tampa Bay, look, they did it. They got it done. Congratulations to Brady and Tampa Bay. It's a hell of a story. I mean, I tell you what it does do. And we were kind of touching on this last week, and it's even gotten bigger this week with the quarterback carousel and all the quarterbacks in the National Football League. Now quarterbacks are going, well, shit, I'll just go to a team and, I can go to the Super Bowl in the first year. Look what Brady did. He's 43. If he can do it, anybody can do it. But they put a hell of a team around him. I mean, it's one thing. Brady is Brady. He's the GOAT. He's great. But, I mean, look, you had Brown, you had Fournette, you had Gronkowski, you had some other guys, and they were missing, 2 other safeties during that game?
Yeah. I mean, Godwin, Evans, in terms of
Yeah.
weapons, that might have
And
been.
what, a Winfield Jr. was out? He's a stud. So look, they got it done. Congratulations to Tampa Bay. Pretty cool moment, got to say, when uh it reminded me just a smidge, because that's the first thing I thought of when the United States beat Russia and the Miracle on Ice, and Jim Craig put the American flag around him, and he's looking in the crowd. He's like, "Where's my father? Where's my father?" When Brady walks over to the sideline, he says, "Where's my son? I want to see my son." And his son came running down and hugged his dad. That was a pretty cool father-son moment right there.
Don't make me like the guy.
I'm
Don't do
sorry.
it. Don't do it. Okay. I'm stuck in. And
Uh,
damn it, no amount of good looks or good smells or cowboy hats or Ugg boots or TB12 diet supplements or even his beautiful wife are going to make me like the guy. So don't you try to do it, sir.
I'm not. I promise not to do that anymore. But he's going to the Super Bowl. Unbelievable. Well,
Damn it.
congratulations, Tampa Bay. Like I said, a great game. I mean, in terms of just action and drama, and so it set
So,
us up for game number two.
so Tom Brady will have participated in 18% of all of the Super Bowls that have ever been played. And Tom Brady, during his career, will have played in 30% of all of the Super Bowls that have been played.
So does it? And this is a loaded question, but I'll ask it anyway. So does it make you respect and be more in awe of the guy, or does it make you and I hate him even more?
Can it be both?
It could be
Can
both.
it be both? Don't some guys just have all the luck, all the fortune, all the fame, all the glory, and all the titles? And in Tom Brady's case, yes, legacy, as difficult as it was to give it any more layers, right? He did add a layer by
Oh, yeah.
getting to the Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. He added a layer, and at the same time, I think in some people's minds took away a little bit from Bill.
Yeah. I mean, and this is not a knock on Bill Belichick. I mean, Belichick's great in his own right, and he has skins on the wall, and he's got rings. But I think if a coach does something great, it doesn't matter his age, he does something great. When a player does something great, it's great. But I've always said this, you don't get better as you get older. We've seen it in baseball, unless you take something to help you. Okay. And of course, in life, there's people that say you don't get better the older you get. And that's where they came up with that little blue pill. Okay.
That's
It
right.
helps. So, I mean, listen, if you can do it without the blue pill when you get older, good for you. Okay. But Tom Brady, I don't know what the hell he takes besides, like you said, 9 million supplements and does all, but he does the things, whatever he has to do, it's working for him. I don't think it's going to work for everybody. It's amazing what he's doing. I mean, at the age he's doing it, I watch him play now, and I don't see a big difference in how he throws the football now than when he did when he's in his 20s. I mean,
No,
if that's the part that just blows my mind, we saw this with Drew Brees last week. He can't throw the ball anymore.
that is a funny mention, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is also something that is an easy transition for the type of game we saw in the NFC Championship game
Yep.
versus the type of game we saw in the AFC Championship game, and specifically the prototype of this generation's great quarterback. I believe it does now have to include a significant portion of escapability,
Yeah.
of scramblability, of rushing ability that, quite honestly, I was thrilled to see as a contrast from what we saw. Not that Aaron Rodgers isn't great, not that Tom Brady isn't great, and not that what they do with their arms isn't great, but the added dimension of what Josh Allen, what Patrick Mahomes, what a Lamar Jackson, what a Dak Prescott can bring to the table, that is the next level of great quarterbacking play that I think almost every great quarterback going forward will have to have as part of their arsenal to be considered in that category.
Yeah, because I think the NFL game has changed. We've heard because it's become more of the collegiate game. The collegiate game it used to be, running backs and running backs and running backs, and not that there aren't great running backs in college ball and good in the NFL, but it's a passing game. It's 5 wide, it's spread it out, it's let it rip all over the field. Guys put up numbers now that are unbelievable. And I think, like you just said, in the NFL, where we growing up have always been so used to the in the pocket quarterback. He stands tall in the pocket. He makes the throw. He reads the defense, and he's got escapability to a certain extent. I mean, growing up, look, Roger Staubach and Bob Greasy and Fran Tarkenton were guys that ran, but it was so rare. You just weren't used to that. We were used to the quarterbacks that stood there tall. And then take it to another level. When Elway came on board, we saw what he could do, but now it's a whole different animal. Like, I think you're 100% right. The quarterback position now, it's almost like if you are a less mobile quarterback, even though you have a great arm, they're going to look at you and go, you know what? We like you, but we love him.
We can come up with a plan for that.
Right.
We can come up with a plan for that.
Right.
To potentially negate that fact.
Right.
And again, that kind of leads us to what was an impressive performance for me from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, it helps having the quarterback ability that Patrick Mahomes possesses, but I'll be damned if the guys that he has on the outside in Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Mecole Hardman are not the perfect complements to what he is capable of. Because as great as he is, and I hate saying this about a guy who I believe and has been accused of harming his own child in Tyreek Hill.
Right.
But I'll be damned, he is one special football player.
Can you think of anybody like him off the top? I tried him, like, who can I compare him to? And and again, it's not the same guy. I just remember when I watched Barry Sanders run the football, his stop on the dime and make moves, but Hill's even quicker and faster and much smaller,
It's only if you combine players, right? It's only if you take the shiftiness and quickness of a Dante Hall.
Yeah, the human joystick. Right? Yeah.
And combine it with a change of pace, escapability of Barry Sanders, right? How many times in that game alone was Tyreek Hill in a box, right? Closed off from every direction. And he used the sidelines. He would use the sidelines as an opportunity to get himself out of trouble. And again, like, having the conversation about what this man should actually be held responsible for, I get it. And I'm for it. Because quite frankly, it's very likely that this guy had potentially done something kind of heinous. But you know what? Unfortunately, his fiance was unwilling to press charges against him, was unwilling to carry forward. And so that type of thing dies. And what winds up remaining, for better or for worse, is all that we can discuss. And that is his ability on the football field is especially eye-catching. I cannot look away from this guy playing football.
And I'll say this. It's okay. So, him, first you got Mahomes, and then you have him. And Hardeman, even though he had the early fumble, made up for it by getting in the end zone, which was good for him. Travis Kelce is ridiculous. He's absolutely but Andy Reid and maybe to a certain extent give Eric Bieniemy some credit. Maybe he'll get a freaking job eventually. The play calls, the things they do where he rolls right and then stops and throws it underhand, or he rolls left and throws. They got so many cockamamie plays that forget PlayStation and Madden. I ain't never seen this shit. I mean, they do things I've never seen before. And I don't know if it's just because that they have all these skill position guys, if it's just because they have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, or is it a combination of you got all those guys and you got a play caller that has a brain that comes up with that stuff?
It's the combination to me, Elf, and that's
Right?
taking nothing away from any of them, but it's that they are so special individually. I think of a specific play on a 4th down, right, where they ran Tyreek Hill in motion across the line of scrimmage and then ran him back. And I don't know if you remember this play because I can't say exactly what drive or what time of the game that it took place, but I remember it specifically because everybody in the world was watching that play thinking this ball's going to Tyreek Hill. And they ran him across motion and they ran him back to get the defense's attention. And then what did they do? They threw it to the damn fullback for the easiest first down to the right side that you have ever seen.
Yep.
And that was, to me, exactly what you're talking about. The ability of being able to mesh the talent that you have available with the play calling ability to really just make the game easy. I mean, that is an easy 4th down completion. And how many times within a football game does a team going for it on 4th down get to say that? Only the Chiefs.
And listen, this is all credit to KC for doing what they did, because actually Buffalo got off to a quick start. And Josh Allen early on showed how talented he is. And I think Buffalo, we all kind of saw it during the year, and we've seen it throughout the last year. We're like, oh, wow, Josh Allen's pretty good. And then it was kind of, man, you know what? He's a little better than I thought he was. And you know what? He actually throws the ball pretty well. And then they get Diggs, who made a big difference to them. And then Mr. Beasley played very well. Of course, we find out after the game, played with a broken fibula, and he played his guts out. But, the cream rose to the top. It usually does in games like this. And where Buffalo played their butts off and they played their hearts out and they did the best they could, you just were watching the game and realizing Kansas City's just better. I don't know if the Tampa Bay game, if the better team won, maybe they did. But in the Kansas City Buffalo game, without no doubt about it, the better team won the game.
And the better team is probably going to be the overwhelming Super Bowl favorite, the odds-on favorite from that game, because, you mentioned Buffalo did kind of get out to a hot start, and they took advantage of a KC mistake. And guess what? By halftime, KC was back at the driver's seat, and they had taken control.
Okay? And you remember what we talked about a week ago? We were discussing how if you get ahead of Kansas City, it don't matter. Remember, they were down 24-0 to the Texans. Then they were down, was it to the Titans, 10-0 also?
Yep.
I mean, they don't care. They're just like, listen, we got this guy number 15 and we got that little guy number 10. We'll be okay.
When you can just flick 21 points up on the board in any quarter that you wish, that's kind of what's going to happen. And I will say, just to wrap things up on the AFC side of things, I don't see that conversation changing anytime in the near future, Elf. The gap between the Kansas City Chiefs, if all they do is keep Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, and Patrick Mahomes on the same football team, I think they can make it work with the rest of them. And quite frankly, another point that we will get into when we actually discuss this matchup next weekend, next Friday, obviously, Super Bowl preview. Of course, subscribe to the podcast, and you'll be sure to get that in your inbox as it happens. But we'll see what they're able to do with just those 4 combatants when they don't have really any of their legitimate offensive linemen available. Because I don't know if you did
the Eric
take note of that.
Fisher injury is unbelievable.
Eric Fisher goes down. And now the Kansas City Chiefs are rolling into the Super Bowl with not a single offensive lineman that I believe was taken before the 6th round in the NFL draft.
Wow. Well, that's what's going to make it kind of delicious. I mean, like you said, they can overcome a lot of things with the great talent that they have on the offense. But we even saw with a guy like Dak Prescott, if you don't have offensive linemen that can protect you and help block to run the ball a little bit, you got to come up with some serious magic. And I think it will, like you said, next Friday we'll be talking about it big time because the Super Bowl is set in Tampa Bay, where a home team is getting to play at home for the first time ever, which again is unbelievable. You know what they should make Tampa do? They should make them wear the Dreamsicle uniforms just for the hell of it.
What they should really do is they should change their name entirely to the Tampa Brady Buccaneers, because that is the only reason they are playing in this game. And of course, Tom Brady finds himself lucky enough to be on that side of history once again. But, you know, that offensive line thing, Shaq Barrett, Vita Vea, Jason Pierre-Paul are going to be licking their chops for the next.
And it's funny, think about this for a second. And I forgot it before the year started. And then I only was reminded of it watching the playoffs the last few weeks when you'd see a shot of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense and you see these guys you just mentioned, right? And White and the other DBs that were playing so well. All of a sudden you see Ndamukong Suh out there, and I went, oh yeah, they got that guy too. That big monster. You don't think he's licking his chops with a chance to go to the Super Bowl? And he can still listen. He's still a beast. You know, he's not the best player anymore, but he's still a factor. And like you just said, with the Chiefs offensive line beat to hell, they're going to really have to come up with some serious stuff. But like I said, we'll get into that next Friday because we got a week's hiatus, as they say.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Elf may actually have a very special guest for you next week. And I don't even know if you know Elf, but when I tell you who I'm going to suggest, you're going to say, oh yeah, we're going to get him. We're going to get our good buddy. Who's your guy, Elf? Who's the guy that does all the impressions? Who's the guy that would be the perfect guest to really give us a Tony Romo-like prediction?
Yeah. Frank Caliendo, can I tell you a quick story?
Love story time.
Okay. So we were at the Super Bowl a few years ago, and Radio Row, when myself, we'd all cover the Super Bowl. It's kind of a zoo, but it's a fun zoo because you have every radio station in the country, in the world sometimes. They're sprinkled throughout whatever city you're in a convention center, and every table is set up with headphones and microphones and has their little banner of what the radio station is. And when you do that, you know it's I call it a lick fest. I mean, you've got athletes, movie stars, superstars, rock and roll. They coming in nonstop throughout the week, and it's just what it is. It's a big event, and you're constantly getting guests. And normally, if you remember, Roy, if it was any kind of a movie star, a rock star, a famous person, they have that person with a suit with them, and he's like, Mr. De Niro is available, let's see, at 2:15 and at 3:15 next this coming Tuesday. Would you like him on your, and you have to make book appointments and do all that. Well, in this Super Bowl, I would do a thing called Elf Unleashed, where I would just basically take the mic and go wireless, and I would just go talk to people, interrupt them, mess around, have a good time. And it was Sugar Ray Leonard and Hugh Jackman were there promoting a movie. And I'm walking around with a microphone, and there's just this huge scrum of media surrounding them with cameras. And I'm, you're trying to get your microphone in there, and I have Josh Lewin, our good friend, is in my ear going, well, ask a question, schmuck. Let's go. Get in there. And I said, I can't even get close enough. And by the time I got close enough, the whole thing breaks up. And they all split up, and there's nobody around. And Josh is like, did you get him? Did you get him? I said, no. He goes, why not? I said, they're all gone. And then all of a sudden I look to my left, and not 10 feet from me, I see Frank Caliendo standing by himself. And I said, hey, but I see Frank Caliendo standing right there. And Josh is like, go talk to him. I said, go talk. He goes, go. And so I go up, I said, hey, Frank. I said, Mark Elfenbein with blah, 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 blah. I said, no, if you can come on the air. he says, yeah, I'll come. Where are you at? I said, well, we're over there front. Okay. And then he turns and he walks away. Well, okay. He shooed me
See you
away.
later.
See you later.
You
Right.
figure, because we've done this enough times. You
Yeah.
interact with a celebrity, they say, yeah, I'll come see you.
Ain't
They walk
happening.
away. You don't see them the rest of the week.
That's it.
And you
So
expect
the later that day, we're set up and we're sitting there. And I think I had mentioned to him a certain time come by. And as God is my witness, we're sitting at the table like we are. And all of a sudden, no entourage. Frank Caliendo starts walking up and I see him and he waves at me. And I said, Frank. And he goes, I'm coming. I said, wow, you actually came by. He says, I told you I'd come by. And he sat down and he did 15 minutes and he was phenomenal. And the next day I had to fly out. Here's the funny part of the story. So I get to the airport and I see him in the same airport terminal as me. And he sees me and he goes, stop following me. He goes, you're following me. I said, no, I'm not. He says, you're following me. We exchanged phone numbers. And I don't know what it was. I just like, when you would text somebody and they would never respond. They're like, they don't give a shit about me. Always responded. And then when he ever came into town, like when he ever came to Dallas, he would go at the Addison Improv or whatever. And so I said, listen, if you want to come on the show, we can promote what you're doing and whatever. And remember we had the fan sports lounge down by the arena?
I do.
We were doing a show from down there. And I was teasing that he was coming on. I was literally on the air. I kept teasing that Frank Caliendo was going to come on. And they go, what are you going to have him do? And I said, well, I think I'm going to ask him if he can do Charles Barkley talking to, Keith Jackson talking to John Madden. And he comes up and about 45 minutes later and joins us. And as soon as he sits down, we said, hey, Frank, thanks for joining us. He says, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to do Charles Barkley interview. And he repeated exactly what I said. He goes, wait, you didn't think I heard you? You didn't think I was listening? And, but yeah, he's always been a good dude, lives in Arizona. And I'm going to reach out and see, for right before the Super Bowl, if we can have Mr. Frank Caliendo join us. That'd be kind of cool.
As kind of an individual as he is funny. So
Yes,
I would love to have him. And if he's willing to come on, by all means, get him on the Extra Crispy Pod.
That would
we
be
will
very,
have a
very
blast.
cool. Very, very cool. Right when you and I got done last week, 2020 kind of sucked for a lot of people with a lot of deaths in the sports world and life in general. And it was rough. And, everybody was like, oh my gosh, 2021, thank God you're here. But 2021 didn't let up anytime soon, as I've had a lot of great athletes that I've always loved pass away. Ali was the one that struck me the worst. But when I heard Hank Aaron passed away, man, that hurt. I mean, that hit me hard. I was like, God, the great Hank Aaron, what a true gentleman. And it's funny, Roy, how many times have people asked you, name me your greatest outfield of all time? Nobody ever puts Aaron in their greatest outfield of all time. It's Mays, it's Mantle, it's Ruth, it's Williams, it's Bonds, it's Griffey, it's Mantle, it's Ray, it's Mays. You never hear Hank Aaron's name mentioned, ever.
Despite the fact that a number of his statistical achievements were never even included as a part of his major league records, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, what he did and what he accomplished in the Negro Leagues before he was allowed to even play. And this is before my time, Elf, right? I'm really only reading this stuff after the fact. I would have loved to have experienced it like you did, to see the man in person like you did, to have that experience, because I truly envy you for being able to have seen that in person. And yeah, what an incredibly sad state of things as we kick off 2021 with that. But I would like you to at least, because I have heard it before, but I would like you to at least share your story and your experience.
I remember it was the end of the year before, 1973, because we were watching him close in on the record. And the year ended where he was like 1 or 2 home runs behind. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was right there. And my father tells me, he says, "Hey, don't forget, Monday night we're watching Aaron break Babe Ruth's record." And I'm like, "Oh." He says, "The Dodgers are playing the Braves in Atlanta, and we're gonna watch the game." And so I'll never forget sitting down with my father, and we're sitting there. Back then, it was the TV console. It was a piece of furniture where the TV was inside. And we sat and there was no such thing as big screen TVs back then. You took what you had. And quite honestly, a 30-inch TV was gigantic back then, right? And we were sitting there watching the TV in my the game room that my mom still lives in her home. And matter of fact, it's right down the hall. And I
I'm still
just
blown away
remember,
by the 30-inch TV being a big TV.
oh my gosh, yeah. And just remember seeing him hit the home run off of Al Downing. And of course, the great Milo Hamilton with the famous call. And Vince Scully had another call. And funny thing was, is everybody talked about if the ball goes over the fence, whoever grabs it is going to be, hanging on to that ball. I don't remember who the left fielder was, but I remember there was that chain link fence in Fulton County Stadium, and then he tried to climb the fence to literally go up and try to go get it. And then Tom House caught it in the bullpen. And when he caught it, he hugged it and he held on to it. And it was pretty cool. And then to see the two fans, can you imagine this? Two fans running on the field, circling the bases with Hank Aaron
Well, I can
and getting
imagine
away
it
with it.
now. I can imagine it now. It just ends in a slightly different fashion.
Oh my God. Either another player comes and tackles them or the police have got him or something. But just fabulous moment. To actually see that with my dad was very, very cool. And then you realize, oh my God, how great Hank Aaron was. And I did see this tweet by a few people after Aaron had passed, and one of them was kind of right on the button. It said, "Hey, Barry Bonds, you want to come clean now?" And I was like going, ooh, because to a lot of people, Hank Aaron's still the home run king. Even though Barry Bonds numerically has passed him, a lot of people don't think he did it the legit way. And maybe that's another story for another lifetime.
Well, that actually transitions us perfectly into our next topic, or at least what I wanted to discuss, and that is the hilarity that took place this week in the world of baseball, right?
Yes.
Because Barry Bonds and a slew of others whose names have been sullied. Now, I'm not going to pretend that the sulliness of the names of Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are the same as the sulliness of a Kurt Schilling, but I do admit that I took some satisfaction in knowing that none of them will be entering the Hall of Fame this season. Am I wrong for feeling that way, knowing in my head, right, that all three of those players were Hall of Fame talents?
I don't think you're wrong. And this is, I think, what's really happened in our world. There's always been the Hall of Fame voting procedures of like, you wonder how, it's like, how did certain players, Willie Mays, or there, you can go down the line. I'm missing dozens, of course, but how is he not voted on by every single writer to get in the Hall
Yeah.
of Fame? And you hear that like, well, only 70% of the writers voted him in, and I'm like, who are they watching? I mean, what is it about him that he would not get in? I mean, it makes no sense. That being said, there's a lot of different things that people think about how the guy acts with the media, how he was off the field, how he was on the field, what he did, what he didn't do. But there is, I think, a good chunk of society that's like, screw them. You know, I think the guys that came clean, hey, you know what? I did. I was wrong. I thought it was going to help me get back. I thought it was going to help me, my injury heal better. I saw the guys doing it. And I admitted I was wrong. Okay. Now, does that mean they're going to get in? No, I think McGuire finally came clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
A-Rod, after a lot of prodding, finally came clean. Andy Pettit admitted he was wrong, and a few others have. It doesn't mean they're getting into the Hall of Fame, but you know what? In our world, you say you're sorry, we're going to eventually forgive you. We're not going to forget. But see, Palmeiro and Sosa and Bonds and Clemens are like, shit, I didn't do anything. Prove it. And we're like, you know what? You're an ass. You're an ass, and we ain't going to ever get you in.
You know, if baseball really wanted to capitalize on this, they might open a separate wing in the Hall of Fame called the Hall of Infamy. And in it, they could house all of the characters like Pete Rose or or Roger Clemens or Barry Bonds, who may have been Hall of Fame talents, but whose considerable question marks off of the diamond, outside of the game. And again, I suppose that's up for debate as to whether or not that should even be considered, right? I understand that. But a legacy involves, in some cases, and I would say in today's society, in all cases, a legacy involves more than just what you do on the field or on the court.
And that's part of the argument for a lot of people. It's like, hey, listen, I look at basically what he did on the field. Okay, yeah, I get that. But, unfortunately, in our world, we kind of base a person on everything. And, the part about the guys that we're talking about, for the most part, Sosa, McGuire, Bonds, Clemens, and I'm missing a few, those that have the PED thing around them, they were in anyway. They were in anyway. They were getting in based on what they had already done, and my father, God rest his soul, I love him to death. He used to say, I'd legalize the damn thing and let everybody take it. He says, my dad was a big time baseball guy. Yeah. And he says, he gave the example. I'll never forget. He said, he remembers that he was in the hospital. He was very sick and they were giving steroids to people that were very sick and it made them better. He says, so what's wrong with that? What's wrong if you're taking something to make you better? I said, well, I don't think it's illegal in the hospital.
Yeah.
I said the hospital like, is, Dr. Rosenkocken is telling you it's okay. I said, but in baseball, you can't do it, even though we know. They used to call them greenies. They used to take the things and the pills back in the day, speed, whatever it was. The one example I'll give you, and I know you can attest to this, Roy White. I mean, I used to collect baseball cards, still do to a certain extent. And I would look at baseball cards. And I never forget this when the whole PD rumor thing came around. I had Canseco, McGuire, Bonds, Sosa, Palmeiro, Pudge Rodriguez, Juan Gonzalez, Roger Clemens, on and on and on. And you look at their baseball cards, and then as the years went on, when they started taking the PEDs, they became monsters. I mean, they became monsters. The one thing that you say about guys back in the day, Hank Aaron, Mays, Mantle, Musial, Ted Williams, their bodies never changed. It never changed. They looked the same from day one to day 500.
Babe Ruth looked like the most out of shape individual I think I've ever seen in my life. If Babe Ruth was walking around today, you would think he's a fat slob piece of crap.
Right.
And this was the greatest baseball player of his generation.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. No question about it, Elf. It is funny to see. But again, I took a little bit I laughed a little bit about that out loud to myself because it will be the first time in 61 years that not a single player will be inducted into the Hall of Fame because in addition to not having this vote taking place, also in 2021, they canceled the Hall of Fame Veterans Committee.
Yeah.
So they will not nominate anybody either this year.
But
at least we got Jeter. This year they're supposed to be celebrating putting Jeter in, so that'll be a fun little deal.
It's funny. It's funny because I had asked a friend this question. I said, we're seeing what's happening and, the PEDs and steroids and stuff. I said, who would be the one baseball player today, retired, that if you heard he had done it, you would be the most shocked? And they said, oh my God, I think Jeter would be that guy because he was such a clean, on the field, off the field, no issues whatsoever. That would have been the most shocking news of all. He did it? No, and I'm not saying he did. Derek, I think you're clean as a whistle.
No, I agree. I think he's probably the one seed because of the fact, as you mentioned, his body never really changed.
Mm-hmm.
Never really changed.
That's exactly right. But well, I guess to segue into a little bit of basketball, it kind of hit me because I didn't realize that until I guess it was yesterday that this week, it was a year ago this week, and just that Kobe Bryant passed away in the horrific helicopter crash with his daughter and I think 7 or 8 other folks. Do you remember because we all talk about this, where were you and what were you doing when you heard?
Yeah, I remember because I mean, I actually guess I don't remember where I was specifically because I don't remember what time of day it started to get reported. That
it was early. It was mid-morning. Because I remember vaguely. I mean, I remember exactly what happened. It was like mid-morning because fall. Social media is how we get a lot of our information, right? And I was at work and I remember looking down at my phone and I saw something on Twitter about Kobe Bryant in a helicopter crash. And I'm thinking, fake news. Who's BSing me? And I totally ignored it. And then I kind of looked down and I saw something else and I didn't pay attention. And then all of a sudden, my phone starts blowing up. And a good friend of mine, who I believe what he tells me, says, dude, did you see what just happened on the news? I said, no. He says, Kobe Bryant died. I said, that's fake. He goes, no, it's true. I said, what? He says, died in a helicopter crash, man. It happened in California. And that's when, then it just snowballs out of control and horrific. Just horrific. And, but I can't believe it's been a year, Roy. I cannot believe, man, life is so quick and so
2020 was a hell of a year, right?
Yeah.
Difficult to even reflect on such a tragic loss that took place in, close to the end of January, when a month and a half later, kind of the world turned on its head. And unfortunately, what an awful loss. The video that you tweeted out, actually, and for those that are still listening and haven't seen it, if you haven't followed Elf at IMElf on Twitter, go check it out because the video he retweeted of Rachel Nichols and the interview she did with players recapping their first experience of playing a game against Kobe Bryant on the basketball court. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you cry. It is absolutely worth the 5 minutes. And I appreciate you sharing that because that was how I saw it. So.
I saw that. And the first thing I thought of is I said, my man Roy and our boy TJ and everybody else, let me send this to them because they are going to appreciate this. And like you did, I mean, I watched it the first time and I was kind of like, oh, that was kind of cool. But then I had to watch it again. And then I realized this is unbelievable. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, every superstar NBA player that ever played against Kobe Bryant, I mean, they were talking to him. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. And God rest his soul, man. I mean, heavy duty stuff.
Keeping his memory alive. And I think he is one of those players, right? He is one of those guys that I will tell my kids about. You won't believe how good he was. And it's almost impossible to convey what more he probably had to give because he was doing some other really great things, right? Yeah. Winning Emmys, winning movie. It wasn't an Emmy, but he won some type of movie award, right?
Whatever he did, that was the thing that impressed me more than anything is no matter what he went to attempt to do or tackle, he was going to work his butt off to be the best at it. And, you're going to produce a movie? Yeah. Direct a movie? Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. Kobe Bryant, just put your name on it. You'll be fine. No. He took it to another level worked at it, and then won an Emmy. I mean, for crying out loud, he won a damn Emmy award. And Kobe, it was fantastic. Just unbelievable.
Yeah. I just would have liked to see what it would have been next, because he was so open after his career was over,
Yes.
at peace with what he had accomplished, right?
Yep.
And ready to share his wisdom with the world. Like, he would have been a commentator in some capacity at some point, right? Because he would have been good enough to do it. I mean, I could just go on and on about how tragic it is and how much we miss the guy. But yeah, keep his memory alive, and hopefully those stories will continue to trickle out over the next couple of years, and we'll have more Kobe memories to kind of share in, because that's all we got at this point.
All right, I got to get you to talk about this, because we've been kind of thinking about it for about a month, and it's time for the bare ass moment of the week segment where Roy White, give it to me, baby. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So the concept here, right? The bare ass moment of the week, right? You know someone out there that's bare assing, okay? What do you do when you're bare assing? You're showing your ass. You're embarrassing yourself, okay? And we have a couple of significant bare ass of the week nominees this week. So I'll take you through them one by one, Al. First and foremost, and I'm going to save the best for last, okay? So I'm going to get to my favorite story of the week here in just a second. But first and foremost, we have our man Conor McGregor. Now, Conor McGregor was once the pride of the entirety of the UFC. So untouchable was this man that really, after committing a litany of actual crimes that would land a normal person in prison, right? Assaulting a bus, assaulting fellow individuals.
An elderly man at a bar.
In the buildup. Oh, God, don't even forget it.
Remember that?
I'm glad you mentioned the bar story, because I had almost forgotten about that.
Yeah.
To come from where he was to now being in a position where he is face down on the canvas, being memed to death on social media, right? Being put in positions and scenarios where he's getting put to sleep by Bernie Sanders in his multi-brown colored mittens. We've got to start with nominees for bare ass moment of the week with this guy, the tough talking Irishman who got his ass properly kicked over the weekend.
Yeah, and it was kicked. Now, it was kicked if you saw it. Because
did you see it?
I'm gonna lead you into your other one, because I was involved in number 2.
So, bare ass moment of the week candidate number 2 will be, of course, as you mentioned, ESPN Plus. For those that don't know, ESPN Plus carried the UFC fight exclusively this weekend and made it a great effort to allow users to pay an additional $50 to $60 to watch that fight on their platform. Unfortunately, right as the fights kicked off at, I believe, 7 or 8 o'clock when the main bouts begin, what happened, Mark Elfenbein?
Well, as you know, I'm Mr. Boxing, so I'm used to paying for every boxing fight, getting pay-per-view, and I love UFC, so I'll do the same thing. And I, like many, is either on my phone, ESPN Plus, you could do it on your computer, and talking to a few people, hey, you're gonna get the fight, you're gonna get the fight. I'm like, it's $70. Of course I'll get the fight. I mean, I just can't help myself. I mean, I do the radio show the next day, so I gotta watch it. And I start seeing on Twitter people like, hey, I can't get in. I can't log on to the fight. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe you get the wrong cable company. I don't know what it is. So I go to do it, and you have your credit card and everything. You click the button, and how the thing starts spinning in circles, and you're waiting for it to come on. And it's kind of been spinning in circles. And I'm like going, huh. So then I went from my phone to my laptop, and I tried it on my laptop, and it was flickering. It just would not connect. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just me. So then I call a couple of friends, our good friend Jane Slater. I called her, and she's trying to get it, and she's struggling. Now, here's the part that you'll get a kick out of. So everybody, now it's blown up all over the world. Nobody can get in. People have saying, I've paid 9 times with my credit card. I'm not getting the damn fight. This is ridiculous. And I get some instructions from my friend. It says, well, if you have Apple TV and if you mirror this and you do that, and I'm like going, mirror what? I take a mirror off the wall. I was so confused on what the hell to do. And to be honest with you, I never could get the fight. I never could get the fight. I had to wait till the next morning to catch the highlights. Okay. I mean, I tried to pay for it. I did. So I was a bare ass son of a bitch.
Well, this is why I get this stuff bootleg, Elf. This is why I don't pay to begin with, okay? You got to find you a pirate website, okay? Now, it might add a couple of spam items to your laptop, okay? You might have to avoid some random items that might ask you to click. Don't click. Don't click, okay? But next time around, I'll maybe show you the way.
Okay, yeah, because I was told by a couple of my producers at the radio station, they're like going, dude, I got you covered. Because I got away. And I'm like going, okay, I got you.
So we got Conor McGregor, bare ass nominee of the week. We also have ESPN Plus, bare ass nominee of the week. But unfortunately, Elf, I'm going to call this fight, okay, like a Conor McGregor knockout. Because as great as those two have been, the true bare ass of the week will show itself later today. I say later today because we are recording this episode, but it will be posted on Friday. And on Friday, that is when mama comes home and chickens come home to roost. Specifically for billionaire hedge fund managers who this week were outsmarted by a bunch of self-proclaimed sit on their ass on the couch, know nothing internet nerds who have used essentially these billionaires' shorting position. And for those of you that aren't familiar with technical terms, essentially think of it like they are borrowing money, selling it to someone else, and then expecting that money to be worth less in a week's time when they expect to pay it back. Okay? So I take 5 bananas from you. I never had 5 bananas to begin with. I take 5 bananas from you. I sell them to someone else for $5. In a week, I expect those bananas to all be worth $1. That is when I will buy them back and I will give them back to you. In that process, I will have made $4. You will have lost $4, right? Because you sold me the bananas for $5. Right. You let me borrow them for $5. Now you're getting back $1. And the individual on the other side will not benefit either. Essentially, I am benefiting from the fact that you both are failing. That is how shorting works, okay? And billionaire hedge fund managers have the ability to short significant stocks, and one in particular came into light this week. GameStop is a stock that was over 100% shorted by major hedge fund managers. Now, why does that matter? Because at some point, the person who has lent those shares to those millionaire hedge fund owners, they will ask for those shares back. Now, again, the managers expect those shares to be worth less than they bought them for. But what happens when a bunch of internet nerds get together and the idiots, the greedy bastards that decided to stick their D's in the cookie jar again and again and again find themselves with a shorting position at $5 that is now risen to $350. Well, my friend, when they have put $1 million into that short and now they are being called to make a payment that is 75 times what they originally borrowed, that is how hedge fund managers go broke. And on later today, at some point today, we may see actual million or billion dollar hedge fund managers lose their entire asses to a bunch of guys sitting on their couch fucking around on Reddit.
That is the Bear gigantic tuchus of the year.
That is the bare ass moment of the decade, and the decade just started, my friend.
Oh my gosh.
So congratulations to those institutional Wall Street assholes. Sincerely, this one's for you. This one's really for you.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me raise my glass. Yeah, nice job.
And by the way, buy AMC, buy BBY, because I'm in on all of them. Let's rise. Let's take this thing to the fucking moon, baby.
Let's go. Let's take it all the way to the promised land. I guess one last thing we'll kind of play with. I'm Mark Alpha Mine, of course, Roy White, Extra Crispy Podcast. You can follow us both on our Twitter handles at IMElf, at RW3. You can follow the podcast, Extra Crispy with Elf and Roy, at Extra Crispy Pod. That's it. And then, of course, one of the things that we appreciate is feedback. We were both tickled by getting quite a bit of feedback from the first podcast last week. We thank you. And listen, any kind of feedback is welcome. Constructive criticism, bring it. What we're missing, what we need to do better at, what would you like to see, what would you like to hear?
Please.
We're just stretching out our hamstrings because we're going to be in this for a long time. We're in here for a long haul. We're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of great new things that we're going to do. But there's one thing that we can't do, but you can. And what's that button? It's called subscribe, right?
Yeah, it's subscribe. It's down there. It's probably over in like this range if you're watching the YouTube. It maybe is over on Elf's screen.
Yeah, it could be over on that side.
But find that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that and tell a friend. Tell a friend about the podcast.
Absolutely, tell a friend. A little bit of NFL, and then we'll pass it along for this week. But we do have a homework assignment for next week. Everybody has it, so we'll share that with you in a second. We talked a little bit about the quarterback carousel with everything going on with the 5 young guys in the draft that are probably be in the first round. And then we heard the news about, Rivers is retiring, Breeze is probably retiring, and all these quarterbacks hopping around. And you had kind of mentioned last week about how the Rams had kind of told Jared Goff, listen, we kind of like you, but we're not sure if we love you. And that even came about even more the last day or two, right?
Yeah, they doubled down. Not only did their GM say, I quote, when asked about whether or not Jared Goff was the starting quarterback, he said, "What's today?" Yeah, he's still the starting quarterback today.
What's time
today?
Is it?
The news has since come out, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, the Los Angeles Rams thought so much of John Wolford's minuscule effort, okay? I believe John Wolford played an entirety of about 6 quarters.
That was it.
And they thought so much of his performance, or perhaps so little of Jared's, that they have decided that it will be a full-on open quarterback competition in camp to start the 2021 season. If that isn't a slap in the face to a quarterback that you signed for over $35 million a couple of seasons ago, I don't know what is.
I mean, it is Matthew Stafford now gone from Detroit, and he's going to be apparently almost every team in the NFL is looking to get him, and I don't understand why they wouldn't. He's 33, he's a ton of talent. So him, Goff, the Rodgers rumors are out there, but I don't hold any water to that. He ain't going anywhere. Deshaun Watson still being dangled out there. That's crazy. Matt Ryan now all of a sudden his name is floating out there. Trubisky's out there. Sam Darnold's out there. Cam Newton's out there. I don't know. Is Big Ben going back to Pittsburgh? Do they want him? I mean, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's unbelievable what's happening. It's crazy.
Well, there's a lot of names that you threw out there, but in a lot of those, I would say if my football team were going after him, I wouldn't be happy, right? There's a lot of undesirables in that list of quarterbacks that are available, right? If my team fell into Mitch Trubisky, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, no, I don't want him.
That's what we settled on. Yeah, I'd be furious, right?
I would say Stafford. Well, Deshaun Watson, number 1, right?
Yep.
Matthew Stafford, maybe number 2.
Yep.
If if Matt Ryan is available, and I don't know if he is, I think people would still go get him because I think he still has a good year or two left. I don't know how many people would go after Goff. I
I
don't know how
think
many.
Goff is the breaking is like the
The Mendoza
threshold.
line.
Yes, the Mendoza line.
Yes.
Goff is the Mendoza line.
Yeah.
If you wind up with anything less than Goff, then you really didn't plan yourself a very good offseason.
No.
I agreed. That's Goff is the Mendoza line.
Yep.
If you're above Goff, and you're probably one of like 4 to 5 guys this offseason. If you're below Goff, then you're one of like 10 or 12. And again, yeah, I got to be above Goff.
All right, I'm gonna give
Got
you
to be better than Goff. Got to be
three
above Goff.
questions. Who is more likely to be starting for the 49ers of all these quarterbacks? Because Jimmy G's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Stafford?
Well, I suppose the reason I don't think it's Stafford, right, is because it's going to take capital to acquire Matt Stafford.
Right.
And the San Francisco 49ers, if Jimmy Garoppolo is not an attractive option, they don't have a lot of great capital to offer. They did just offer first-round draft picks for Jimmy Garoppolo, and they got burned, right? So I would say, I suppose there's a chance, but I don't think it's a great one. I don't think he winds up being the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. I would be interested to know if the Lions and Texans could possibly work something out in terms of a Stafford-Watson swap.
Right, but if you're Deshaun Watson, you're like going, I don't want to go to Detroit. I mean,
no doubt.
Like, yeah, hell no.
No doubt.
Listen, I'm not going to Detroit. And I think the Colts are sitting pretty for if one of these quarterbacks wants to go there. I think New England's kind of interesting to see if somebody goes there with Belichick up there.
Yeah.
Washington is kind of keep an eye on Washington with Rivera because they got a great defense. And, you know, a lot of people look, if you could just bring any kind of quarterback on board there and then they add something to it, that can be interesting. Carolina's kind of dangling in there as well.
I mean, I'd be interested to know if Cam Newton could wind up reuniting with his old coach there in Washington to have perhaps one more opportunity at being a legitimate starter in the NFL outside of a coach having that type of rapport with him.
Right.
I don't see him getting that opportunity.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear some more rumblings of coaching and NFL quarterbacks and trade rumors and then we're going to blink and the draft is going to be here and that's pretty good. But the good thing is we know who's in the Super Bowl. It is some guy named Tom Brady against some cat named Patrick Mahomes. And again, as football fans, that's pretty tasty. I would have loved to have seen Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, but you know what? This one doesn't suck because the storyline is pretty awesome. Like you said, this is number 10 for Brady. It's ridiculous. And the fact that he might have opened up a can of whoop ass and worms because, oh, you mean I could just go to any team and take it to a Super Bowl? Okay, I'll raise my hand. Let me go to this team now.
Well, and not only that, right? I will admit, right, if it were Rodgers and Mahomes, Rodgers would still be fighting to solidify somewhat his own legacy, right? Mm-hmm. Brady's legacy is so cemented, and Mahomes' legacy seems to be so forecasted that this actually could be a dream type of matchup in the sense that we got to see the two greatest quarterbacks of all time in their respective generations, right? In their respective eras of the game. And we actually got to see them battle it out one time. Which is why this game may be so critical for both of their legacies. We don't even know, perhaps, right now how critical it will be. But 10 years from now, when we begin to compare Mahomes' accomplishments to a Tom Brady, right, over a long period of time, if it doesn't include him beating Tom Brady in this Super Bowl, then it will always be a feather in the cap for one or the other, right? Whoever wins this game, it will always be a feather in the cap in the argument of what may inevitably be about the two greatest of all times.
Yeah, because see, Brady's already the statue of the great football player, and he's already established everything.
Yes.
Him winning, they're just putting a beautiful fresh coat of paint on the statue. Patrick Mahomes has got the cement set for his statue, and they're starting to frame it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if he wins this, they're gonna go, "Oh yeah, go ahead and build that sucker. You go ahead and build it." I mean, we started building because we seen what he's done, but if he wins against Brady, then oh yeah, build that. He's there.
Well, the first thing he'll have to do, right, to even be compared, is he will have to at least have a dynasty, right?
Yep.
A 3 and 4 years,
Yep.
a 3 and 5 years, a 4 and 6 years. He will have to deliver that. And what better time to do it than potentially in his second attempt at a Super Bowl, right? And against who many consider right now to be the greatest of all time. And in fact, as much as I hate him, documented earlier on this program, even I would not deny that he is the greatest football player of all time.
All right, here's a homework assignment for all our folks out there. We thank you for listening. Tell a friend, tell an enemy, subscribe, do all the great things. It's Extra Crispy Podcast with Elf and Roy. Homework assignment before the Super Bowl, Tampa Bay and Kansas City in Tampa is this. We need your favorite person of all time, dead or alive, to sing the national anthem. Who do you want? And if they're dead, it'll be a recording. If they're alive, what the hell? Okay. Who do you want performing at the halftime show? You could pick anybody. Who do you want? National anthem, halftime show. Who is your all-time play-by-play team doing the Super Bowl? Who do you want? Who do you want doing play-by-play? Is it Tony and Mr. Jim Nance? Or is it Troy Aikman and Joe Buck? Or do you want to go back way in the, back in the day? And then your pre and post game studio show hosts. There's a whole bunch of them now, right?
Yeah.
You got Fox, you got CBS, you got ESPN, you got the NFL Network. So a little bit of a fun homework assignment we'll have some fun with before next Friday's show. That'll be great.
Yeah, and hit us up with your submissions at RW3 on Twitter, at IMElf. We would love to interact with you and reach back. As Elf said, hey, hit us up for any reason at all. We love interacting with our folks, and we sincerely do appreciate you listening to the podcast.
Absolutely right. We'll do our best to get everything ready for the Super Bowl in Tampa for our next podcast, number 3. I'm going to do my best to reach out to my boy Frank Caliendo and see if he can come on and have some fun with us. But until then, I'm going to let Roy White do it this time. If you're going to listen to Elf and Roy, and you're going to listen to the Extra Crispy Podcast with Elf and Roy, what's the best way to have it?
What's the best way to have it, Elf? Extra, extra, extra crispy.
We'll see you next time.